tasvika pakubata vanhu vanofanira kuita ivo 13,077 kana kuti zviuru 10,340 muZimbabwe. Pavanhu ivavo vanhu vashaya nechirwere ichi vasvika pa349 kana kuti 340 nevapfumbamwe. Tichiona kuti svondo rimwe chete vanhu vafa munguva iyoyo vakawanda kwazvo kubva mashoko atakwanisa kunge tichiziviswa. Nezuro bazi rezveutano rakazivisa kuti vanhu vanokwanisa kuita vasere vakashaya. Totarisawo pasi rose chirwere ichi chabata vanhu vanodarika mamiliyoni 80 kana kuti 80.7 million pasi rose. Vanhu vakawanda zvikuru. MuAmerica chete vanhu vanokwanisa kuita 19 million kana kuti mamiliyoni 10 nemapfumbamwe vabatwa nechirwere ichi. Chiurayiwa vanhu vanodarika zviuru zvemazana 3 over 300,000 vanhu vafa nechirwere ichochi. Tichatarisawo nyaya yemusangano kana kuti sarudzo ve-Extraordinary Congress dzakaitwa nezuro muHarare dzebato reMDC-T, kwatinonzwa kuti kwava kuine nyonga nezhowe kukandirana makobvu nematete panyaya iyoyo, asi sarudzo idzi tinonzwa kuti dzakapedzisira dzaburitsa munhu ari kunzi akakunda. Tichabatawo zvakare nyaya yezviri kuitika muno muAmerica, patinoona kuti nezuro mutungamiri wenyika waDonald Trump vakasaina bhiri rinobvumidza kuti hurumende inge ichibatsira nemari inoita kuti mapazi anga achishanda kusvika muna Gunyana gore rinouya kana September gore rinouya. Panguva imwe chete achiita mari inokwana kuita mabhiriyoni 900 billion yakasainwa naTrump kuti inge ichibatsira vanhu vari kutambura muAmerica nenyaya yechirwere cheCovid-19.
Yes, Chonga, for those that have just joined us tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about COVID-19 figures in Zimbabwe and worldwide. So I think some people are asking about the figures again. So as we spelled out, as Mr. Chonga has actually put it out there, there are over 13,000 people who have contracted COVID-19 in Zimbabwe. And out of this number, 10,593 have actually recovered. We have got about 349 people who have died of COVID-19 since March this year. And in the last 24 hours, there were roughly about 114 people who were diagnosed of having COVID-19, and 8 people actually died in Zimbabwe. And worldwide, according to Johns Hopkins University, there are over 81 million people who have contracted COVID-19, and more than 1.8 million have died. And in America, according to the same hospital, there are over 19 million people who have contracted COVID-19, and 333,140 have actually died. So, COVID-19 wazani ila upetu. Kota esiyakhuluma futhi okunye okuqhathekileyo namhlanje i-Extraordinary Congress ye-MDC-T enziwe izolo. So we are also focusing on this issue because there was chaos at that Extraordinary Congress, with some people saying their names were struck off the register. And apparently, Mr. Ozani Kupe, who was the interim leader of the party before the Congress, it seems as if she stormed out after she complained of some kind of alleged election rigging by Douglas Monzora. Then she went on to actually suspend Monzora, claiming that he was, playing around with the party's funds, and at the same time, he allegedly rigged the elections. So let's have a glimpse of what happened at that Congress. So we're going to play a video.
We cannot accept that. We can't be disenfranchised while we watch. We come all the way from Bulawayo, and we find our names not there. And we don't know what's happening.
They are reading.
We don't know what's happening. We expect our name. Whoever is in charge, whoever is doing this.
But we confirm that your name is there.
Sorry?
Yes. We confirm that your name is in the voters list. Me, I confirm now.
We have confirmed.
There's no treasure. There's no treasure.
Most of the names don't appear.
What do you think is the reason for your names missing?
Maybe best known to those that have done it. I don't know the reason behind this, but maybe best known to those that have done it. But only what we want is to have all the names appear on the voters' roll and we continue voting. Nothing else. Nothing other than that.
Which position did you hold in 2014? Which position did you hold? Which position?
I am the organizing secretary for the district. Of course, my name is there, but I'm an agent. I'm Dr. Kupe's agent. But most of the voters can't find their names there. So it's like Bulawayo just came here for a visit.
Sorry.
I think it's fair enough. The authorities are there. I am authorities they have to plan. Plan ngoba thina singeke sibuye all the way silanda uzobona amanyala lawo sibuyeleni nxa ukuthi amabizo abantu kawakho abazovota balandeni right ngulungani Ndebele.
So that's part of the chaos that actually happened at the Congress, Chonga. It seems there were so many things there.
Wangu vadiwa vateereri zviri kurakidza kuti pakanga paine bowa sezvamaona nekuzwa pavhidhiyo yashandiswa pachirongwa chino naGibbs iye zvino. Tiri kunzwa mumwe ari kukurukura nevatori venhau vari kunyunyuta kuti aiwa mazita evanhu haasi kuwanikwa pavoters roll. Vakataura ivo kuti ivo vakanga vaine chigaro vari munyori wedunhu nguva ya2014 asi pari zvino ndovanga vari election agent waDr. Thokozani Kupe wamuzvare Kupe pasarudzo iyoyo. Vakapedzisira vataura ivo kuti aiwa tangoita kunge vanhu vabva kuBulawayo tashanya zvidu muHarare nekuti mazita kana asipo zvakureva kuti havachakwanisa kupinda musarudzo. Asi I understand Gibbs that was later sorted out and all the names that were agreed on, people were allowed to vote. And I think that prompted the process to go ahead as was planned, though it was delayed. You can go ahead, Gibbs.
Yes, it seems as if, before the Congress, Dr. Kupe promised to actually deliver, and she was confident that she was going to win. Let's listen to what she said just before the Congress.
I'm feeling good.
Are you confident of winning the party president?
Very confident, and I'm happy that finally we're having our extraordinary Congress.
Are you satisfied with all the preparations?
I'm satisfied.
Are you happy?
Under difficult circumstances, I think we've tried.
Are you happy with the voters' roll?
I'm happy.
Some of your colleagues have accused the interim party secretary general of abusing party funds. What's your response?
I will not respond to that because you know that we've got a standing committee. Whatever we do it at our standing committee meetings.
What should Zimbabweans expect if you retain the party presidency?
We want a better life for all. We want to make sure that we move this country forward. That is going to be our preoccupation. So this is why we want this Congress to be out of our shoulders so that we start working for the good of everybody else.
Are you going to unite with Chamisa?
We are LiMDC-T. Let's cross the bridge when we get there. Right now, our major focus is the extraordinary Congress. We want it to be as fair as possible, to be as credible as possible. We want to make sure that as the opposition, we start working, like I said, for the good of everybody else. We want Zimbabweans to have a better life. We want political stability in this country. So this is what we want to be working.
But are you not going to deal with your TG? You said everything is discussed in the standing committee, but the TG has not been discussing things in the standing committee.
Our focus today is the extraordinary Congress. So let's focus on our extraordinary Congress and nothing else.
But the people...
Yes, Chonga, that is Ms. Thokozani Kupe speaking before the Congress. So there you are.
Yes, Gibbs, we heard confidently saying that everything was going on well, but later that turned out to be otherwise. Petanzwa muzare Kupe vachitaura kuti aiwa vanga vachifara izvi zvakaitika sarudzo zvisati dzatanga tipabate ipapo zvakaitika sarudzo zvisati dzatanga vachitaura kuti vane chivimbo chokuti zvinhu zvese zvagadzirika zvakufamba negwara sezvo vanga vachimboita matambudziko sebato rinopikisa kuti vanga vachigadzirisa sarudzo idzo dzinge dzichisvika pakuitwa asi sarudzo yazinge yapakati pakazoita bowa nenyonga ndo zvimwe zvinhu zvatoda kuti kurukure Gibbs ndinoimba kuti une vatare vauina guests that will also be part of our discussion today.
Yes, just two seconds before that, we've got Douglas Monzora, who actually issued a statement. When Kupe stormed out of the venue, she then said she had suspended Douglas Monzora for certain reasons. And one of the reasons was that he allegedly rigged the election, and at the same time, she alleged that he was pilfering party funds. Here's what he said.
I expect them to cool down, to relax, and accept the verdict of the people.
Is this leading to another split in the MDC-T?
I don't think so. A split is where the owners of the MDC split. The owners of the MDC in this regard are intact. As you saw, it was individual candidates who saw how the election was going, who have moved out. The members of Congress remained and resolved that they should continue, and they have just continued.
But you've been suspended. What is your response to that?
I can't be suspended by a fellow candidate in an election, during an election. And in a few minutes' time, or in a few hours' time, we will have a new president. And it is up to that president and the national executive to deal with this matter. It is an act of illegality.
There is Mr. Manzora there. He says no one can suspend him. And I guess we've got our guest now. Jonga, go ahead and introduce our first guest.
Our first guest is Mr. Thomas Mashimbwe, who was the Independent Electoral Management Board chairman at the MDC-T election last night. Mr. Mashimbwe, welcome to our show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mashimbwe. Gibbs, do you have other guests you can introduce before I pray?
Yes, we've got Mr. Witness Dube. Mr. Witness Dube is one of the supporters of Mr. Douglas Manzora, and we also have Mr. Innocent Ndibali, Economic Freedom Fighters Zimbabwe, and we're hoping to have Mr. Den Moyo, who is a supporter of Ms. Thokozani Kupe. So go ahead with the first question.
Yes, Mr. Mashimbwe, maybe you can walk us through the election, the MDC-T Extraordinary Congress election that occurred yesterday.
We participated in the election process as the Independent Electoral Management Board, which I chaired. In terms of reference, the party was to produce a voters register or roll, which we are going to use That is what transpired yesterday.
So, as far as you're concerned, Mr. Masingwe, do you think the election was free, fair, and credible?
Indeed, it was free, fair, and credible, and also verifiable. Also, when regard is head to the fact that this is an internal process, and the party, or the institution, or the organization determines how it is going to run its election in the context of, in terms of its constitution. This, we are told, and we've learned that the party at every time would make resolutions regarding the running of the election.
So now, looking at the way Ms. Thokozani Kupe was actually complaining, it seems as if there was a voters register that was not agreed upon by all party members. Is that the case?
I wish to comment in confidence that on the 18th of April, the elections which were scheduled for the 19th were postponed on the basis of disagreement over the voters' roll. We were handed a copy of the resolutions taken by the MDC's National Council regarding the management of the voters' roll. And it seems to indicate that the party deferred to its provincial executives were to come up and validate the voters' roll. So every province had the provincial roll. And this is what was used more particularly in the case of Bulawayo, the provincial roll which was agreed to by parties, particularly the candidates.
Yes, no, now looking at also another issue concerning when Miss Thokozani Kupe, why do you think she actually stormed out of the the venue?
I'm not really privy to the reasons causing her storming out. But what is clear is that an independent electoral management board was appointed and no candidate raised any objection against its chairperson or its members. She did not raise any issue with the independent electoral board to the extent that whilst we were busy ensuring that the election is run properly, I think that's the time she stormed out. She did not talk to us, either myself as a chairperson or any member of the electoral management board. So we can not really guess as to why she allegedly stormed out.
Jonga?
Maybe, Mr. Mashingwe, maybe you can also clear the air here. We understand that Dr. Kupe cancelled, she announced that she has cancelled the election and went on to suspend the party secretary general, Mr. Douglas Monzora, meaning that whatever came out of that election is null and void. What's the position here?
The election process had started. And once that process is null and void, what's the position? The independent electoral management board will be in charge. And for the elections to be cancelled, it would require a competent authority, not a candidate, to cancel, defer, nullify, set aside, or postpone the process. We were not served with any order from a competent court which to stop our process, to stop the process.
Now, can you hold on? Yes, go ahead, yes.
As to the suspension of Mr. Monzora, purely an internal matter. We were not even privy to it. It's outside the scope of the terms of reference. So I'm unable to comment on that aspect of the purported suspension.
Can you hold on this? I think we've got Mr. Witness Tube. Mr. Tube, can you hear us? Mr. Witness Tube, can you hear me? I think Mr. Tube can't hear us at the moment. Mr. Tube, Witness, can you hear me? I think he's got a challenge there, Chonga, with the phone. Maybe go ahead with Mr. Maswingwe. Maybe ask him in Shona.
Yes, vamashingwe tokugamuchirai muchirongwa chedu chatinokurukura nezvakatora nzvimbo kusarudzo ye-extraordinary congress yebato reMDC-T nezuro uko manga murimi vanga vari sachigaro weboka raitungamira sarudzo reindependent electoral management board. Vakawanda vamashingwe vanga vachimudza kunzi sarudzo yanga ine mhirizhonga zvokuti kuti vachiziva kuti zvakabuda musarudzo zviri kutambirika here kana kuti kwete zvave kunetsa vakawanda nekuti hapana achaziva kuti chokwadi chakamira papi. Zvii zvamungataura pamusoro pesarudzo iyoyo yamaitungamira yamaiita oversea?
ichokwadi kuti ndaive sachigaro wekutungamirira sarudzo kucongress yeMDC-T. Sarudzo iyi takaifambisa zvakanaka chose, zvinhu zvese zvikafamba zvakanaka. Pakupedzisira tikawa nemaresults kuti akunda ndiani. waDouglas Munzura ndiwo wakazokunda, wanga waine 883 votes. Vamwe vacho vanga waine I think 118 waitera mumashure mavo, vamwe waine 14, vamwe waine 9 votes. Ndo mafambire akaita basa mizuru.
Yes, so maybe let's try Mr. Witness Dube again. Mr. Dube, can you hear me now? Hello, Witness Dube, can you hear me? No, I think he has got very serious challenges with his phone. So let's turn to Mr. Innocent Ndibali of Economic Freedom Fighters, Zimbabwe. Mr. Ndibali, how are you?
I'm fine, James. I hope you can hear me. But I'm on the road, but I can hear you very clearly.
Yes, we can hear you very, very clearly. So tell us, what do you think about the MTC Alliance Congress?
I think the first thing, Gibbs, I must say it's rather very, very strange that you've got a chairperson of an independent electoral body that is failing to condemn what happened in terms of the violence against women, in terms of the dignity and the chaotic nature of the process. That happened yesterday. I find that very, very strange. But what we can say, looking from afar, obviously other issues like the legalities and so on, we cannot comment on that. But what we can actually say as EFF, I'm speaking as the EFF founding president, that look, from what we could see in terms of the violence, the chaotic, the shouting, and we can digest that the whole process was chaotic, and there is a possibility that the rigging, of the election was possible, but it is not our space to say. The other thing that I find strange is that we had a member of EFF Zimbabwe participating and actually moving the motion to adopt the outcome of the Congress. This is Comrade Shelton Chiangwa, who was a high-ranking member of EFF, who at one point held a position of national chairperson. And he loved the EFF so much that he even authored a letter that went to the CIC, Julius Malema, highlighting issues of EFF Zimbabwean challenges and so on. So I find that strange that the electoral body did not notice that actually the person who moved that motion.
So I think Chonga is also cut off there. So maybe you heard this kind of analysis saying, the things that took place at that Congress, they look to be very, very crooked,
Yes, maybe Mr. Mashimba can respond to those allegations that he has not condemned the violence that took place yesterday at the MDC-T extraordinary Congress, and also the fact that they failed to notice that one of the people who moved the motion there belonged to the EFF. Mr. Mashimba.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the last question. The moving of motion to adopt the outcomes of the Congress was purely or remains purely an MDC internal matter. We are not members of the MDC as members of the Commission, and that area is clearly out of bounds for us. So I will not comment on the internal processes of the MDC. And then coming to the first issue raised, spanned from about 10 a.m., 10 or thereabout, and ended around 2 a.m. That's when we announced. During that process, there was peace and tranquility. You could have had some incidents here and there, but those are not, could not affect the material outcome of the process. The Bulawayo province voted when the voters' roll was produced. Every member who wanted to vote was qualified to vote, voted. And from time to time, we could check outside. We see there was no intimidation, there was nothing. It was not a violent Congress. It was a relatively peaceful Congress. And I continue to say that it was not a chaotic Congress. I think there could have been an isolated incident which might appear as there was chaos. There was no chaos. When you deal with the congresses of political parties, trade unions, regard must be had to the nature of the discourse in those organizations. The Congress, or a political party or a trade union, is clearly distinguishable from a bishop's conference electing a bishop or a chief bishop. These are political proceedings, and the debate there is robust. And that is the essence of that political discourse. We are saying, as the independent electoral management board, the Extraordinary Congress, the elections were free, fair, credible, and verified. If there be any issue, it is incumbent upon a personal agent to prove that here things did not go well. What the candidates do or do not do is none of the management board concern. The candidates will say anything in any event in the leadership of the party. We are not concerned about it.
So, in other words, you are saying that you delivered your mandate?
We delivered our mandate. In fact, we exceeded expectations in the delivery of the mandate. The election process was transparent. It had all the facets of a free, fair, credible, and verifiable election. If someone got 883 votes, it can be verified as to how he got those. The ballot papers were properly serialized, there was a security mark, there was no stuffing of the ballot. We issued out 1,027 ballots. 1,026 ballots came from the boxes. We tallied the figures, everything tallied up. It was clear the ballots which we counted were the ballots which we had issued. And when we did this, it was done transparently, and every candidate had an election agent who would observe the process and point out any irregularity. We did not receive any official complaint from the candidate agent. I maintain that we did a good job, and that this party must now focus on its primary core business of offering an alternative to the ruling party and sustaining the democratic discourse, the democratic practice, the democratic space for the nation, so that it's healthy for the nation to have an opposition party which is focused, which offers alternatives and assist the nation. That's what we now look forward to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maswingwe, and stay on the line there.
Yes, Mr. Diwali, I think you heard what Mr. Maswingwe said when he was explaining on their role as the Independent Electoral Management Board. Yes, Mr. Diwali.
Yes, I did hear what the gentleman was saying about how the whole process was run. I think to a certain extent from their part, they may as well been playing their job and doing their job. But what I was saying is that it's rather strange that you have, a chairperson coming onto a public platform and failing to condemn violence against women, failing to actually call those out who committed such barbaric acts, such violence, especially against Dr. Kupe. That is unacceptable for such a thing to happen, that we have a chairperson running such a... So how independent were they if he's failing to condemn such an act? Coming back to the issue of the adoption of the motion, I think he said it was an MDC internal issue. I believe that even the election, the extraordinary itself that they were running was an MDC issue. So in terms of adopting the motion, I would have thought that a member was supposed to be an MDC-T member, not an EFF member moving a motion in an extraordinary Congress, a motion that has got such a effect of such proportional measures. Because that gentleman, I can tell you that I'm not aware of his resignation from EFF Zimbabwe. This is a man who held a position as the national chairperson of EFF Zimbabwe. This is a man who wrote a letter to the leader of the EFF revolution across Africa, Comrade Julius Malema. So this is not a man who is not known. But he played the part and participated.
If I may interrupt you there, Mr. Ndevali, is that not the work or the mandate of the MDC-T party to make sure that everyone who came into the election is a paid-up member or a bona fide member, not the Independent Electoral Management Board to oversee that? Is not that the issue of the party security structures to make sure that whoever came in and whoever moved the motion is their member?
I think in a way it is, the responsibility of the MDC and those who are actually running the processes. But what I'm saying is that my understanding is that Comrade Chamisa and the other leaders could not go to that Congress because they joined other political parties. So how come this other leader moving a motion, yet he had joined another political party, yet we are not aware that he resigned or he rejoined? So therefore, that is a bit strange. I'm rather highlighting the strange nature of things. So what I'm saying is that
maybe you need to reprimand or verify with your member whether he had also resigned from the MDC-T party, because maybe at one time he was a member of the MDC-T and he never resigned and he went on to join EFF.
What about Chamisa? Therefore, then Chamisa was supposed to be in that Congress. Because what if Chamisa did not resign from MDC?
Chamisa was sacked from the MDC-T. I think Dr. Kuku announced that, so he should not be part and parcel of that. But what I'm just trying to say here is, it's up to the party, the MDC-T, to verify who came in, was the member on their voters' roll. If he was on their voters' roll, then it means they acknowledge that he was a member. They recognized him as an MDC-T member, and he's guilty of double dipping there. If he belonged to both parties, then EFF and MDC-T.
No, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that I'm raising the red herring to say, look, it's rather strange that you have that, but it does not mean that that has a possibility of invalidating the process, because you cannot have a dual member moving motion from EFF and moving motion in MDC-T. Don't you see that that is a bit strange? But it has to be looked into. But that is not to say that Comrade Monzora would not have won. Maybe he would have won. But what we are saying is that they must adhere to constitutionalism, because these are the people who want to be leaders of the country. But if they are doing things that do not follow the constitution, which is the very reason why they were told by the Supreme Court to go and do that. But if they are doing something different, therefore we will maintain our position that MDC, for the last 20 years, they've been a failure and they'll continue to fail. Even in 2023, they'll continue to fail. That's why we are saying that people must abandon this so-called MDC, whatever, in whatever form, in whatever shape. Even if they split, people must not take them seriously. People must start voting for other political parties that will actually, bring change, real change, total change, such as EFF Zimbabwe, which believes in a borderless Africa, in one Africa, an Africa that is very proud of itself.
Yes, we hear that's a very interesting discussion, Jonga. So we are still trying to get hold of Mr. Witness Dube, and it seems as if his line is really problematic. But we've got a video of Miss Coupe. Yesterday she said a lot of things before, going for the election. So let's hear what she said before she went into the venue of the Congress and then stormed out later.
Ukuthi sizokhetha umuntu ozangena endaweni eyayilobaba uSwangirayi wasitshiyayo. So siyathaba kakhulu and ngilethemba lokuthi kuzahamba kuhle. Sifuna ukuthi kuhambe kuhle, abantu bazikhethele upresident abamfunayo ngendlela eqondileyo ukwenzela ukuthi yena lo ozawina ngoseqhubela umsebenzi phambili. Lokunye okumangalisayo sengisebenzini. Ngizamile ukuthi ngikhankase kodwa kusebantwini ukuthi bazikhethele umuntu abamfunayo. Kodwa lami sengizamile ukuthi ngikhankase ukuthi hayi bakithi alike ngilingizame lami linginike ithuba ngilikhokhele libone ukuthi ngizenzani njengomkhokheli njengoba ngike nga-acta nje isikhathi sonke sona lesi after i-Supreme Court anti ngimakade ngi-acta. So ngicelile sibile ebantwini ngalicela ivoti labo and khathesi ngilokhe ngilicela ivoti labo ngilethemba lokuthi bazanginika lelo voti. Ukuthi vele mina injongo yami sonke isikhathi ukuthi ngifuna ukusebenzela abantu, ngithanda ukuthi ngisebenzele abantu ukuthi babe lempilo ezinhle. So bengibatshela ukuthi ngicela ukuthi linginike ithuba ngike ngilizamele lami, ngike ngizama amaqhinga ami, ngibona ukuthi khona ngingayenzani ukuthi abantu beZimbabwe kube lenguquko. Ngokuthi okuqhakathekileyo bakithi ukuthi sikhulise isizwe sethu, sithuthukise isizwe sethu ukwenzela ukuthi wonke umuntu oselizweni abe lama basic needs. Wonke umuntu kufanele azuzife ekhekhe eZimbabwe. iZimbabwe yilizwe elinotho okunye okumangalisayo, le-gold, le-diamond, le-methane gas layo yonke into, kodwa ungakhangela abantu bayadubeka. So kuqakathekile ukuthi thina njengabakhokheli sithathe izakhiwo lesana sizibisele ebantwini. So yikho kangifuqayo mina ukuthi ngifuna ukuba ngomunye walaba abantu ozasebenzela abantu uqobo. Ngibona ukuthi abantu bonke balempilo ezinhle, balempilo eziguqulekileyo, siguqule isizwe sethu. Kulabanye abantu asebachiya ibandla. So asebachiya ibandla ayisiyo ngxenye e-extraordinary congress le. I-extraordinary congress ibuya kuphela abantu abayibo abavumelana le-Supreme Court judgment yani yaphumayo. So yibe silabo khona lapho. Bona labo abazabuya inani lona lelo yilo esizaqhuba lalo umsebenzi. Labo abasebadecide ukuthi hayi bona bakulunye uluhlu hayi akunanto esingayenza. Njalo asiba forcele ukuthi babuye ngapho. I-contest yangikhona ngilethemba lokuthi abantu khathesi nxa bekhetha umuntu kabasoze bakhangele ukuthi umuntu ungumama kumbe ungubaba, umuntu ulindebele kumbe ulishona, ngokuthi abantu kabadli khona lokho. Abantu kufanele bekhangele umkhokheli ngomsebenzi wakhe awenzayo, ngokuthi bafuna umkhokheli ozabakhokhela, ozabenzela izinto ukwenzela ukuthi abantu kube lenguquko, abantu kube lempilo ezinhle, abantu kube lemsebenzi, kube lokuhle ezindlini zabo, kube lezibhedlela ezinhle, lezikolo ezinhle, abantu kube lamanzi ahlanzekileyo. Yikho abantu okufanele bekhangele ukuthi uma bakhetha ubukhokheli obuzabasebenzela ukuthi impilo zabo ziguquke. And ngilethemba lokuthi uma abantu namhlanje bevota ku-extraordinary congress yethu lapha bazananzelela ukuthi abavoteli umuntu ngokuthi ungumama kumbe ungubaba, ngokuthi umuntu ulindebele kumbe ulishona, bazavotela umkhokheli abafuna ukuthi umkhokheli abasebenzele.
Yes, so Jonga, that is Ms. Thokozani Kupe. She's very optimistic that she has got this bright future for Zimbabweans. So, but it seems as if things didn't go that way. So, in essence, she was saying that she was campaigning and hoping that people were going to vote for her. But it seems as if things didn't go the way she wanted. So, it's really a big setback for her. But she's got this kind of high hopes that she's there for Zimbabweans. So, there you are, Jonga.
Yes, Gibbs, you were talking of trying to bring in Mr. Jen Moyo. What happened?
Yes, Jen Moyo sent us a message and said he has just jumped into a meeting. So he's not going to be available. So, yes, so we still have another video of a lady who is the MP for Matabele North, and that is Lwazi Sibanda. So she was rooting for, Thokozani Kupe, and she was hopeful that Miss Kupe was going to win. Here's what she said.
Honorable Lwazi Sibanda, imelele iMatabele North Province as a whole. Namhlanje ngizwa ngijabula ngoba yayikade silimele ilanga leli lokuthi sizokhetha umuntu ozangena esikhundleni sika Morgan Tsvangirai. Namhlanje siyajabula sifuna ukwenza ukukhetha umthandalo, nyama yembongolo khetha umthandalo. Mina lami ibhiza ngiyathi liyaphuma ngoshuku. Elami ibhiza vele ngihamba lo mama. Okungala mama khona kuhanje. Uzube ngaka lawe lusi uyi-journalist wazalwa ngumama. So abantu bonke ngabaya ngami ngabathi mama. Ngoba bonke bakhokha bekhopha emhlabeni ngumama wabazalayo. Akulo wazalwa ngubaba. Abantu nje abazama ukuguqula imiqondo yabo bekhetha ukuthi bona ubebele ivotela umama. Sonke sithi kumama. Vele umuntu osele bandla lakhe lizimele lodwa. Akumelanga simfosezele entweni angayifuniyo. Antu wavela wakwenza uThwankara efile ukuthi uThwankara kakabe kusemoshari yena sesibeka ikhude sesina nguye uMakhonya. So vele ku right ncabe ngabuyanga bahambeze layo laba ibandla lathi siqhubeke ngebandla leyathiwa ngoba kuThwankara. Abasifunayo bazabe bezosichasa. Siyathanda noma ngasithandi yena uThamsa ukumele ezehlise njengoba yena nguye wayiphambanisile. Ani kwakumele abuye ezohlangana lo mama uMakhulu afika axolisa abaxolisela khona nqabe emxole babezamxolela uzaphazamisa sibili kodwa abantu sizawafundisa njengoba vele isikhathi sokuthembisa sikhatshana. Abantu kuyakhulunywa kugcwele kuthiwa ngo-WhatsApp bakubona abantu bambona umuntu orongo bambona umuntu oright ngoba uThamsa vele uthi venena uvele umuntu obambane labantu lebandla leZANU-PF abangahambana leZANU-PF abanawabuye. Asimzondi siyamthanda uThamisa. Njengamanje aqala ikula personal engilayo layo. Ngiyamthanda. Abona yena wabuya wazehlisa. Wavuma icala lakhe. Sahamba ke namhlanje iCongress ehlangeneyo sikhetha umuntu oyi-1 owinile siyamlandela kuphela after that.
And we also have Mr. Morgan Komichi Jonga. Let's hear what he said.
Right yabo. Kuti kuya Congress kana kusauya ichoice yabo abagona kumanikitswa. Supreme Court yanga iri very fair yakataura zvipachena kuti after makanganisa process yamakaita succession mukauya kucourt kunoku mukaruza court chidzokerai mundoita a proper process muinde extraordinary congress mese vana veMDC most havana kuti vanani kana nani asi pakazowanikwa vamwe vanhu vakachuza not to do saka idemocratic right yavo asi vakawanda varipo va 2014 vazhinji ndo vauya nhasi kuona vakazara pandapo ndeva 2014 and isusu inini as a leader I am prepared to welcome anyone even asina kuya after congress kana ndava mutungamiri kuti tiite rebuild organization nokuti vana vembo havaswini musi mumwe chete ipapo vanhu muri kuona havana kuuya one day vakauya nguva dzakasiyana siyana saka hapana hatina mutemo wekuti after EOC vanhu havachauya tinge tichinguvagamusa zvakare vachiuya because political party inhamba yavanhu toda nhamba hombe kuti pati ikure saka iko zvino hatingavashori kana kuvatuka asi kuti vakaita choice yavo yokuti vasauya kucongress.
So that's Mr. Komichi there, Chonga. You heard him, right? Chonga Kandamiri, can you hear me? Yes, I think Witness Tube has actually joined us, Chonga. Mr. Tube, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sorry for my poor connection.
Oh, yes, no problem. So go ahead. So we see that there are these problems that, are being mentioned by the Thokozani Kupe, MDC formation. She's actually saying, Monzora has been suspended, and then the Congress, in terms of the outcomes, there's a lot that is wrong there. So what's your take on that, just briefly?
Okay, I don't know how much has been said in your show, but basically, it's unfortunate that Madam Thokozani Kupe will purport to have suspended Congress. No one has got authority to suspend Congress. Once Congress is in motion and it's on its agenda, in this case, the agenda was to elect the substantive president. At that moment, no one had any power, any jacket, any constitutional power to suspend Congress because it had been convened to elect a president, and Madam Thokozani Kupe herself was a candidate together with 3 others. So she had been stripped down to a candidate. All the powers that are vested in the vice president and acting president were not hers to effect on the day because that power had been transferred to the Independent Electoral Management Board. They were the only ones who had the authority at any moment in time to stop the election and effectively stopping the Congress if they deemed that there were any violations of the rules of MDC which warranted that stoppage. So what she did is a nullity, and it was just it should be read as actions of somebody who was emotional at a time when she felt that things were not going the way in a Congress. And basically the processes that had been followed to the Congress itself had been agreed upon from the voters' roll. The voters' roll was generated by the organs of the party under the direction of the National Council. She was part of it. Specifically, the National Council directed that each contestant bring 2 polling agents, making it 8 in all, the total polling agents for the 4 contestants, and then they were led by the directorate secretary, elections directorate secretary, and organizing secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And their output was then to be scrutinized by the provinces, which were given the final authority to have a say on who is in the voters' roll. And the provinces duly did that, and they signed the voters' roll. And once the voters' roll was signed, it was handed over to the Independent Electoral Board.
But it seems, it seems as if Ms. Kupe is saying that's not the same voters' roll that you agreed on. So she's claiming that Monzora actually rigged the elections. Jonga, you can join in there.
It cannot be so. It cannot be that her polling agent gave the voters' roll to the Independent Electoral Board together with other polling agents, and they allowed the election to kickstart with the voters' roll in their hands. It's the same voters' roll that was in their hands as the election started. So when it was posted, the voters' roll changed, because when the election started and when the 5 provinces were voting, it was the same voters' roll that was being used.
Yes,
so at what point the voters' roll changed?
Mr. Dube, there are some who are saying that the election was not even supposed to take off because it didn't constitute a full quorum. What's the point here?
The issue of a quorum of an extraordinary Congress has to be looked at in context. Extraordinary Congress is convened to do the business of extraordinary Congress, and the quorum is the number of people that have come to the extraordinary Congress. In this case, there are people that left the MDC and joined other political parties, knowing that political parties are voluntary organizations. Those that remain in the party are the ones with the duty to then fulfill the obligations of the constitution, because they cannot be held at ransom by those that left. And so the duty was to elect a substantive president by the members that remain in the party. And of the members that the party feels are still remaining, 1,024 was correct. So the issue of the quorum does not really arise, and all the candidates got into the race, and the race started because they knew that constitutionally we were on the right footing, and none of the candidates has so far disputed that the Congress was correct.
Yeah, so Jonga, you can pose another question.
Yes, angazi ukuthi uMdube uyakhuluma isiZulu shona. Badube. Ndokanda muzeremeshona.
Mungakande ndichazamane pandinogona.
Yes. Badube vakawanda vatiri kunzwa vari kutaura pamusoro pezvakabuda mumusangano. Vari kuti vamonzora vakapirira zvakaatire mhando yepamusoro-soro kana vechizvino zvino vakutaura sarudzo idzodzo kuti dzakapirirwa kuburikidza nekubvira kuvoters roll nenyaya yekunzi paiuyiswa vanhu vakanga vasiri nhengo dzebato reMDC-T asi vakakwanisa kuva vachikwanisa kuvhota. Zvatanzwawo vebato reEFF vatinavo pano vaInnocent Valley vachitotsinhirawo kuti mumwe wevanhu akasimuka achiisa motion yekutsigira zvabuda musarudzo kuti vamonzera vasarudzo inhengo yavo yebato reEFF. Zvizvo zvamungataura pamusoro pezvipomerwa izvozvo?
Handingazive kuti ivavo vari kutaura kuti munhu akasimuka pakongresi yeMDC iyoyo inhengo yavo kuti vane umbo hupi, nekuti isusu maziviro edu munhu iye anga ari palist yemadelegates eMDC muna 2014 and ari pare zvino kusvika nezuro paakauya kukongresi akazadzikisa zvese zvinoita kuti tizive kuti munhu inhengo yedu anenge ari a member in good standing yeparty zvinomupa kodzero rekuti auye. Saka handingazive kuti ivowo vari kudaro vanenge vari neumbo hupi, but handifungi kuti vanhu veEFF vakasvike pakuziva mamembers edu kupfuura isu tiri nhengo dzeMDC. Munhu iye tinoshanda naye kuMDC, maprograms edu eMDC, kuti vazoziva kuti tine congress vakauya vakawana zita ravo riripo zvoreva kuti inhengo yedu pamarecords nein action yavakaita iyoyo. Saka ndofunga kuti vanhu vari ngozamawo kukandira madhaka mubasa rakanaka chairo raitiwa. Ivo veEFF vacho hatisati tamboona congress yavo vachiita zvavo, saka kuzoda kukomenta nezveMDC-T nemamembers aya ndifunge kuti zvingatidetserezvo.
Yes, sithi-ke sivale khonapho Badube loNdibali apho nguphendula ngamafitshane sibili. Ndibali 30 seconds baba isikhathi sesihambile.
Ngicela ukumphendula ubaba uDube ukuthi hayi uShelton Chiyangwa wajoyina iEFF ngo-2019 kwaze kwafika ukuthi ehambe representa kwenye event ye-EFF. Yonke le public information ungahamba ku-YouTube uzambona. Uze wabhala enye incwadi ebhalela uJulius Malema recently, and uComrade Shelton kade ngu-national chairperson we-EFF eZimbabwe. So it is not difficult even to prove to you ukuthi hayi kade imember yethu. So engikutsho mina ukuthi kade ngingakabi kwazi ukuthi waresigna nini. Kodwa engikutsho akutsho ukuthi lokho kutsho ukuthi iCongress yenu si-destroyer khonokho, kodwa ngiraise nje ama-concerns there. But into ebuhlungu baba Dube kuchaywa kamama umakhuphe umuntu omdala, umuntu ongasizala thina singaka, and akulabutu, and lawe mfisa ukuthi engaye into leyo uyayicondemn very clearly. You may find ukuthi engxenye vele uba Monzora kade ezawina even ingayenzanga i-chaos kumbe i-violence kumbe ukuswapha i-voters register yenu.
Yeah, babudube
bengekho phakathi isikhathi eside mphephetha ngicela ukuphendula masinya mhlawumbe isikhathi sakho sesiphela.
yenza njalo.
Ubaba into azikhulumayo lapha ezinye zakhona asola ngazo ubaba uMonzora akulabo ubufakazi bokuthi ubaba uMonzora yebo mama ukhuphe ngabe ephanjanisiwe, kodwa akumelanga ukuthi kube yindaba yokuthi sengathola uzwelo ngokusolisa ubaba uMonzora. Umama uphuphe yena ngokwakhe njengomuntu omdala njengoba besitsho ukuziphatha kwakhe kwekuthini angene lapho kuvotwa khona abe ngumuntu ofuna ukuthi yena ngokwakhe mathupha ahluthune amavoti aphume lawo bekungasiyo into ekade ingenza ukuthi aphatheke kuhle emphakathini kodwa lokho kwenzakele kuye akulamuntu okusekelayo lokho kwenzakele kuye akula nhlanganiso engama ithi kulungile kodwa kungabi indlela yokudinga uzwelo lokuthi kube sokusolwa ukukhethwa kukababa uDouglas Monzora ngoba bebeme ngokufananayo bonke bephethwe lugatsha obuluqhuba ukhetho lo-MDC. Ubaba uDouglas Monzora wazinqobela ngokuqondileyo ngakho kakela ntolo angaba layo phakathi kokwenzakeleyo ku-MDC election.
Yes, what's the way forward between the two? There are now factions, definitely. What's the way forward?
Ubaba uMonzora njengopresident omutsha isifiso sakhe ukuthi bahlale phansi bakhulumisane njengabakhokheli uyakunanzelela ukuthi yebo kambe engabe enqobile kodwa siyadinga wonke amalunga e-MDC njalo siyadinga bonke abakhokheli be-MDC enkulumeni yakhe yokuyamukela ukuba ngumongameli izolo ukubeka kwacaca ukubana hatshi uyakunanzelela ukuthi okunye kwakhona kungaba phela kuyikuthi ngesikhathi ukhetho luqhutshwa abanye babe behluzulekile emoyeni ngempumela ezibe khona kodwa-ke akutsho ukuthi singahluzuleka sokumele sixabane singasasebenzi sonke kumele ukuthi abantu bathathisise umbono ngemva kokuphefumulela phansi phezulu base bebona ukuthi hatshi ibandla linye umkhokheli osekhethiwe nguyena lo ubaba uDouglas Monzora ngoba abantu nxa sebekhulumile e-extraordinary congress akusela lunye ugatsha olungaphinde lunqume ngalokho ngaphandle kokuthi size siye ku-ordinary congress okuyiso isigaba esilandelayo ngakho akusela yinye ilunga lombutho elingahlangana ukuthi lichithe lokho kwenzakale izolo so ubaba uMonzora uyafisa ukuthi sihlale phansi labanye abakhokheli siqhubeke ngebandla lethu njengoba besisenza sikhohle nje ngokwenzakele izolo kube ngawotshwala mhlawumbe.
Yeah, ngasikiwa nje 30 seconds.
Ubaba, Mr. Douglas Monzora, the newly elected president of the MDC, would wish that we have a round table with the other candidates who were not so fortunate. He realizes that perhaps what happened yesterday was just a result of the heat of the moment kind of reactions and emotions that must not be allowed to carry the day. So really, he does not think that what is purported to be an imminent split is actually supposed to end up as a split, but it should just be a curve that we take as a party and we go on to be one united MDC and get back to the ways that we
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness Dube. He is an MDC-T activist and he supports Mr. Douglas Monzora, who appears to be the new president of the MDC-T following a disputed election at the MDC-T Extraordinary Congress. Wish to take this opportunity as well to thank Mr. Thomas Muswingwe, who was conducting the elections together with some other people, and Mr. Innocent Ndibale of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Zimbabwe. Signing off from Maryland, this is Gibbs Dube saying good night, Zimbabwe.
And I'm Jonga Kandemiri.
Thank you very much and good night.